I'm Richard.
And I'm Will.
And together we're
The Irreverent Nerds. Bum, bum, bum.
Nerds, we would love to find out who is on the other side of the microphone. There are multiple options by which you can connect with us. Our Instagram handle is @irreverent_nerds. We are on Facebook and YouTube as simply The Irreverent Nerds. Makes sense, right? And of course, we are on your podcast app. If you listen on Spotify, scroll down through the episode description and you will see a question. What did you think of this episode? We welcome your feedback, including your constructive criticism. We also post episode-specific polls and questions from time to time on Spotify, so please feel free to jump in and give us your 2 cents. All right, nerds, I've talked enough. Let's get back to this week's episode. Yeah. Nerds. Well, we're here for a wee bit of fun, just a wee bit of fun. We're going to be talking about a flea circus and a white man, like a triple white man. He's like 3 kinds of white, and then a white man dressed in black, and some diggers, not the duggars, the diggers.
Okay, bro.
Have you guessed yet what we're talking about? Will knows. Will, do you want to tell the folks?
My last summer vacation.
He went to Norway. Yeah. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Everyone's very white up there. They don't get enough sun. Woohoo. Except during the winter when it's 24-hour sun. Woohoo.
Is it 24-hour sun in the winter?
I think if you're like at the northern end of Norway, it's similar to Alaska, I think. Just that part of the hemisphere. I believe, but I could be wrong. Anyway, all right. So what are we actually talking about?
We're talking about that movie that needs no introduction. That B-lister.
Oh yeah, by an unknown director. First timer.
Jurassic Park. No, I'm kidding.
Geriatric Park. No. Bunch of old folks getting killed by dinosaurs.
Think of all the B movies that have spun off of the success of Jurassic Park, though.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure there's been quite a few. I've never tried to research that, but it would not surprise me if there are a lot. But yes, we were talking about the one, the only, the original Jurassic Park. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and if you need us to introduce it to you and tell you what it's about, shame on you. Go watch it now.
Yes.
Pause this and go watch it now. You have no excuse. It's been 30 years. You have no excuse.
It's probably one of the best cinemas out there. Is cinema a correct word?
The best cinematic productions?
Yes.
Best films of all time?
I think so.
I think that's fair to say. It should make the top 100 list for sure. Absolutely. One of the top 100 films of all time. Yes, indeed. No, it is excellent. It is. I think it's fair to say it's definitely my favorite Steven Spielberg movie, and I think you could make a pretty strong argument that it's his best movie. He's made a lot of good ones for sure, but I think you could argue that that's his best movie, or at least the best movie he's directed. Obviously, Schindler's List is like in a different class. It's just such a different type of movie, So you could say Schindler's List is his most important film,
right?
But that overall Jurassic Park might be his best, if that makes any sense. And obviously, Schindler's List right up there, but it's so different than most of the things that Spielberg does. The only other movie he's made that's close to that type of film would be Lincoln, I think, where it wasn't exactly a biopic, but it was a more serious and a historical matter. That's probably the closest he's gotten since Schindler's List. But kind of taking those two aside, his normal fare is more like, it almost diminishes to call it a popcorn film, but in the sense of like, it's the kind of movie you want to go to the theaters to see, which is
Yeah,
what Spielberg tries to make. He's expressed that sentiment is like, he wants to make movies that he would want to go to the theater to see, that he imagines the audience would want to go to the theater to see. And historically, like, that has proven to be true. Like, the audience has loved many of his films. um he said quite a few successes.
speaking of the theater, how many more days do you think the theater has before everybody's just streaming?
I hope it never dies, personally.
I hope not either. It'll
No,
be the end of the era.
the honestly, I don't think streaming would be what would replace it. If it ever did get replaced, I feel like it would be more of like home-based immersive experiences or something
Uh,
along, where you have like the goggles, you have a 3D with immersive sound, and maybe even 4D, in a sense of like you have sensory interactions, or perhaps a place where you would go to see a film in that way. That's the only thing I could possibly see that might replace it. But then initially that would be so much more expensive. It would probably be a long time before it like fully phased out. But yeah, I
true.
don't I don't think streaming by itself is ever gonna do that. Like, it yeah, it just didn't have the same impact. It was kind of a necessity during the pandemic, but it just didn't have the same impact, you know, like as the theaters pick back up. You've had I'm pretty sure that the production companies have made a lot more money off of theater
Yeah.
releases than they did off of the streaming. I could be wrong about that, but it does seem that, and maybe part of that is that they just don't publish the dollar amounts yet of the streaming, and it's harder to judge that too. It's like, I'm sure they can track like how many views something gets, but trying to trace that to, okay, then how many subscriptions did that result in, would be a lot harder, I feel like. So it's probably harder to quantify um the actual dollar effect of straight to streaming films, I would imagine.
I can't put it to words, but I think there's something about movie theaters, something about that experience. Like you said, it's not the same as streaming at home. There's just something about it.
A communal experience, right?
Yeah. Oh, that too. That too.
But yeah, you were talking more about the aesthetics.
Uh, the large screen, the sounds, um, just the theater quality sounds.
The overpriced popcorn.
I was gonna say the smells, but you're correct.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I have had some decent food at theaters on occasion, I will say. And now that so many of them are serving beer and wine, albeit a little overpriced, not too much more than if you would get it at certain restaurants. So it's not ridiculous prices necessarily, but still a lot more than you would pay at the store, of course. Supply and
Right.
demand. But that's where they make most of their money, is concessions, I think. I don't think they make as much on the tickets. Anyway, did you have more you wanted to add about the film going experience, the cinema, as they say?
Nah, it's time to get on with the dinosaurs.
That's right. So obviously this is in honor of the 30th anniversary. Let me see if it actually released this month. Let me see here.
I think it was earlier in the year, wasn't it?
I would have thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it was. So June June 9th, 1993 in the Uptown Theater, which maybe that was the UK. The US release was June 11th, 1993. Yeah, I would have thought it would have been earlier in the summer. That's pretty impressive. Like, even in 93 it made 1.057 billion dollars in 93, which, if you adjust for inflation, that's probably up like Avatar money, I would imagine. It
Yeah.
was a very successful film, financially speaking, and obviously loved by many.
I think that Jurassic Park was definitely one of the films that had the most impact on me in the theater. Um, and probably one of the first films that really got dinosaurs right, or at
Yeah.
least right according to the scientific data at the time. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, and obviously that I think it's fair to say that's due in no small part to the work of Michael Crichton, obviously
Yeah,
writing the novels, because that is something he's known for is doing his research, and like he does write essentially like science fiction is essentially his genre, where but he attempts to dive into the science, whatever topic he's deciding to write on. you know he tries to dive in. Well, obviously he's not alive anymore, but like when he was, like, the kind of books he would write, whether it's about a virus outbreak, which I think was just called Outbreak, if memory serves me, or about, I think this was about like nanobots, this book called Prey that he wrote. And then there are some other ones. I can't think of some of the titles right now, but then obviously you have Jurassic Park and Jurassic World.
yeah,
um so yeah, he and then the filmmakers, obviously, in actually trying to bring them to the screen, had to go even deeper into like paleontology and the current theories on like how dinosaurs behaved, like, the theories about dinosaur behavior and stuff. But like, did you love dinosaurs before you saw it, like leading up to it? Were you already kind of enamored of dinosaurs?
oh, definitely, definitely. Ooh, I wanted to talk about Stan Winston, but this is a good topic that you brought up. We'll get back to Stan. Um, yeah, actually, I've loved dinosaurs very early on. I have a vivid memory of the Berenstain Bears dinosaur book. It might not have been Berenstain Bears, but it was the same illustrator that did the book.
Hmm.
So I had a bunch of I was just enamored by that, things like that. I also like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness monster, but
Oh yeah, who
yeah,
doesn't?
yeah,
Who doesn't like a good cryptid, right?
exactly. And so I mean, I was just fascinated by dinosaurs. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely love dinosaurs as well. Like, and even prior to Jurassic Park coming out, like I remember, I lived in Arizona. My strongest memories of my affection for dinosaurs are from when I was about 8, 9, 10 years old, kind of in that range, which is, I guess, prime time for a lot of people, I think, in their love for dinosaurs, or um, which I guess incidentally is about the age of Timmy in the film. I think the actor would have been about the same age as me, I think, like around 10 years old at the time of the release. Um, so it's definitely, and it was very purposeful on Spielberg's part. And I'm trying to remember if they were in the book. I've read the book. I'm trying to remember if the grandkids were there in the book. I think they were, but I'm not totally sure now that I think about it. But definitely within the film and the context there, that's like the prime audience in a sense. So they are like, Tim and Lex are very much representing the target audience. I mean, it was everybody, but kind of like the prime target audience for the film.
Right.
Maybe not necessarily 8-year-olds, but like 10 to 12-year-olds. Just you're in that still kind of somewhat I'm assuming obviously that you have a good home life, but there's still magic in the world, so to speak. Age 10 to 12, you're still discovering so many things. And but anyway, getting back to me, like I remember with my best friend at the time, we would go to the library, and I remember this one particular book. It was like an encyclopedia of all the known dinosaurs at the time. So
Cool.
it had like a little section on each one, and there was like at least 250 different dinosaurs in there, at least. And then it would show the diagram and like details and facts, and obviously the names and stuff. So we would pour over that, and then um we would try to draw them, draw the different dinosaurs. And so yeah, he and I were both big into that. So when we started hearing about Jurassic Park, coming, we both got excited. I don't know if he got to go see it in theaters. I'm trying to recall, but at the time, growing up, like my family, we just didn't go to theaters. We were, that was something kind of a part of our expression of conservative religious tradition. Like we just didn't go, so I didn't get to go see it in the theater, which I would have loved. I'm sure that would have like blown my tiny mind.
Oh, the filthy secularist.
But I did get to see it not too long after it released on video. I think I was 11 when I finally saw it, so this would have been 94, so about a year later. So I had to wait a while, but I did finally get to see it at a friend's house. And we had which I'm sure he had already seen it quite a few times, but we had the bright idea. I can't remember if it was his or mine. I think it was probably his. He's probably like, I'm gonna scare Richard. Who knows? But we decided to watch it late at night. So I think we started at like 10 or 11 at night or something. So it's already dark, and like the parents went to bed. So it's just the two of us out there in the living room with our sleeping bag or whatever, watching Jurassic Park. And then my friend falls asleep during the movie. So when the scariest, like to me at that time, the scariest part was spoiler warning, by the way, and which if you haven't seen it, shame on you. No, go watch it now.
There are no spoiler warnings. This is a 30-year-old film.
Exactly. Where damn it, my brain just it is later at night. Ellie, yeah, I got her name right, Ellie. I was like, I doubted myself for a minute there. Ellie Sattler, where she's trying to go check up on John, portrayed by Samuel L. Jackson. I was just waiting for him to say, "Hold on to your butts, motherfuckers." And I was like, that would have made it rated R, I guess. He does say that like 2 or 3 times though. Hold on to your butts. Anyway, so he went to turn the power back on the other side of the facility or the campus, and it's been too long, so Ellie goes to check on him, and then at one point, where she like backs up to the wall and his hand falls down, and she thinks he's there, and she's like, oh, let's see, I'm trying to remember his last name, the character's last name, Arnold. It's like, oh, Mr. Arnold. It's like, and then she grabs his hand, and then the arm just like comes loose, and she's holding just an arm with a stub. That scared me so much as an 11-year-old kid. This is like midnight, no one else is awake, just me there, my friend, and I'm there trying to wake my friend up, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. Yeah, as I'm freaking out. So that was the scariest, like even scarier than the velociraptors in the kitchen, which is arguably it's definitely the most suspenseful scene in the film. But that part was even scarier because it's like a shock scare. Like you don't expect him to be dead. It's not necessarily a surprise, but at the same time, it's like you thought it was going to be okay. It's like, oh, he's there. Okay. And just an arm. Ah!
I always wondered where that arm came from.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, I guess he got eaten behind the panel there or something, and then the raptors just left it. I don't know. Yeah. They didn't necessarily try to make sense of the physics of that, or like the opening scene, speaking of physics, like where the guy gets grabbed by the raptor, they somehow bump the whole thing back, which didn't make any sense to me. I was thinking of it, I was like, that the physics of that makes no sense. And then the guy gets grabbed and he's like moving up and down, and it's like that don't look right. Like, I know it's like dramatic, but like something about that I don't know. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it felt a little fake. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, for the longest time, that scene right there, I have just wondered why the velociraptor didn't just escape, because it got so much clearance.
I know. Why didn't she just run out? Maybe she knew she would get shot. Perhaps. Well, she did end up, like, they didn't end up shooting her. I think. At least, you have the famous like Muldoon's like, Shoota! Close up on his teeth. Close up on his teeth. Shoota!
And then they do, and we are left. It's left up to our imagination whether the dinosaur actually died or not. But they did. We do hear shots
Yeah, it's
fired.
true. They don't let you know whether she does or not. Yeah. Well, Stan Winston comes to mind. Did you want to talk about?
Yeah,
So this is
yeah.
behind the scenes stuff. So Stan Winston,
Well, you mentioned Michael Crichton.
Crichton,
Crichton.
Crichton.
Crichton. Um, his credit, and definitely he's the creator of Jurassic Park.
Mhm.
Before Steven Spielberg brought it to life on the big screen. But I just wanted to credit Stan Winston for bringing the dinosaurs to life, or at least the animatronic dinosaurs.
Oh man, still to this day, some of the best animatronics ever in film, if not the
Yeah.
best. Yeah, almost seamless. Like in terms of the final edit, obviously.
And I guess they must have used at least some CGI in the film. I don't know how advanced CGI was at that time, but I feel like the Brachiosaur in the opening scene when they first get to Jurassic Park, was that animatronic or was that CGI?
That was all
That, you know,
CGI. Yeah, that was completely
I thought
CGI.
so.
Yeah, no, the CGI for that, which in my opinion, it still looks good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it was groundbreaking, like what ILM, what Industrial Light and Magic, what they accomplished. I still remember watching like the making of and learning about that. It's like, and yeah, I think they had to like buy a bunch of processors and like supercomputers just to process all of the data that was required. Like, I think in general, as I understand it, like when you, with the exception of like the the Triceratops, like the bigger dinosaurs, when you see the whole dinosaur moving around, it's CGI. Like, or like when you see the Gallimimus herd running, obviously that was CGI. Like and then yeah, anytime you see the entire T-Rex moving around, that's CGI. There were some occasions where there was both, like where there was like they would have like a robotic foot in the front of the scene, but then CGI behind it, like, and they would integrate the two. There were other times where it's like just animatronic, like when the Tyrannosaur, tries to eat the kids. He's like putting its snout through the, that was definitely the animatronic, obviously, and you had
Yeah.
stunt kids down there.
Because because we can traumatize the stunt kids, but not the real kids.
Well, they're expendable, I guess, according to their parents who allowed them to do that.
I've never heard of that stunt kids. You sure they just didn't get like a really small man? Like,
I mean, that's always possible, but
okay.
there are definitely stunt kids out there. For instance, this was kind of an instance of CGI and live action combining. Like, um, I don't know if this has ever been done in a movie before, but there's the scene. It's closer to the end of the movie when um uh dang it, when Dr. Grant and Sattler and the two kids are trying to escape, Tim and Lex, they get up into the ceiling, the drop down ceiling, and they're crawling across, and the raptor, you know, sticks his head up through one of the panels, and then Lex almost falls down. It's like as they're grabbing her to pull her back up, at one point the stunt girl, like, you know, lifted her face up during the shot. So it was blatantly obvious to the camera, like, this is a stunt girl. This is not the actress. This is I forget the actress's name, right? This is not Ariana Richards. This is the stunt girl. But they went into
Right.
in post production. They went in and they replaced her face with Ariana Richards' face. And it's a very
Okay.
brief shot, but it's, I guess, compositing. Digital compositing, which I don't know how often that had been done, if at all, prior to that. But yeah,
Well, I didn't even notice.
yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't have noticed had I not seen it in the special features, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, to me though, I don't know how you feel about it, but to me the CGI still holds up, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Yeah, it's not, and it didn't need to be. It's not as intricate as, like, obviously you fast forward to another Spielberg film, and which he didn't direct, but he produced, Transformers. Like that stuff is so intricate, and like all the movements and stuff. Like there's so much information. In fact, I heard the second one, they had this massive Decepticon, like in the second Transformers movie, like that required so much processing power, it literally blew up a server. Like literally blew up a server. There's just so much information on the screen. Um, Whereas the dinosaurs are simpler, and a lot of them are in the dark, so you don't have to put as much detail. So they made it work. I think the Gallimimus scene is one of the few that's in broad daylight, where you got to put in a little more detail, especially if there's any close-ups. But like if you're further away, or if there's dim lighting, you don't have to put as much info, so it's easier to make it look realistic. Cheaper too, I would imagine.
True.
Anyway, don't get me. Yeah, I'm nerding out about all the special effects. But you were talking about Stan Winston. Did you want to say more about that?
No, just wanted to give him due credit for bringing the dinosaurs to life, or at least the animatronics on the animatronic side. What I was trying to say earlier is just I don't think that dinosaurs had been seen like this in cinema ever before Jurassic Park.
No, I think
correct me if I'm wrong.
it would have been in context of like claymation. Like they would have, which they actually did look into. Like they looked into doing it claymation when they were researching for the film. And they actually hired a guy named Phil Tippett, and he even did some test runs and stuff. Like you can see it on the special features of like the velociraptors in like, what do you call it, stop animation, or
Yeah.
stop motion animation. And it just didn't look realistic enough for Steven, so he decided to pursue the CGI route and see if ILM could come up with something that looked more realistic. But Phil Tippett ended up, because he was so good at it, like, because you have to do like one little movement at a time, which is similar to what you would have to do with just any kind of animation. You have to do one frame at a time, little movement at a time. So he ended up getting involved in the CGI and helping the animators to animate the dinosaurs in the CGI. Like he ended up getting heavily involved in that because of his expertise. And it's not that dissimilar from using claymation. It's just that you're manipulating it within the computer instead of physically.
Nice.
So I thought that was pretty cool that he still got to be a part of it, like a big part of it, even though he didn't get to have his claymation on the screen, which I imagine he probably left that behind for the most part after that. Like he probably moved on to CGI stuff. He's like, it's like, I'm gonna be extinct if I don't
Probably.
if I don't change.
Well, good for him that he found something similar to what he's already doing.
Yeah, I don't know that for sure. I could imagine that maybe he moved into that more. Unless he found a job at Ardmore. Was it Ardmore?
Yeah.
Ardmore?
I'm pretty Ardman.
Ardman, yeah, with the Wallace and Gromit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chicken run and all that.
Yeah.
Way.
I don't think so though. I don't think he worked for them, but not even Wensleydale.
So my brain died earlier. I got all ADHD. I started picking my teeth while you were talking. I forgot you could see me.
Well, I mean, we're not necessarily we're not releasing a video episode, so it's okay.
No, but like my
but
brain.
now everybody knows you did it, so. Oh. Excuse me. Anyway. So we didn't even talk about the fact that we rewatched the film yesterday in theaters.
Yeah, we did. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah, like I was trying to decide what to cover for Sci-Fi Week, since we did Futurama last week, which was technically still August, and I was looking to see what was out in theaters, and I saw that Jurassic Park, they were doing a 30th anniversary 3D release, and because it was Labor Day, they, we were both off work, and they had an 11 a.m. showtime. It was only like $5.34. I was like, heck yeah, 3D movie for $5. Jurassic Park for 3D for $5. So
Yeah, we talked about this the other day, but for the benefit of our audience, did you think that the 3D glasses, the 3D effects really benefited the film?
I enjoyed it. It gave more depth of field, and it makes you feel like you're there a little bit more. Um, I think some of the scenes where it particularly was effective, which obviously the film was not originally designed to be 3D. It was not shot in 3D, so it's been converted, like many films are today. But with live action, like with straight live action, when you don't have a lot of CGI, I feel like it's more effective when you convert. But anyway, I think the scene where it probably worked the best was in the T-Rex chase, with Ian Malcolm and Ellie, and then Muldoon in the Jeep. Like you could definitely, for me, that enhanced the experience. And there were other moments too in the film. There were a couple where it just didn't work. It like made something blurry or kind of out of focus, or as a distraction. But for the most part, I think it enhanced it for me. Like it just, yeah, it's like makes you feel a little bit more like you're there, like kind of the more depth of field kind of. Yeah. So I liked it. You said it didn't really do much for you either way. Like it was kind of.
No, I don't know if it's that I got used to it or that I actually have a hard time seeing depth. I'm not really sure. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just trying to make sense of why it is that, except for in the beginning when the text like Isla Nublar or um, the dig site, etc., that text that lets you know where you're at, that really jumped out at me. But for the rest of the film, I just felt like I couldn't really tell any difference. I might as well have just been watching the standard version, but I will say this: I got up to use the restroom and came back just in time to see the tail end of the Tyrannosaurus Rex chasing scene of the Jeep. So I missed that part that you believe that was the stood out the most. So
Yeah, I think, yeah, and that's not for everybody. I know certain 3D films actually like give you like headaches and stuff, right? Sometimes like certain, so we don't normally go to 3D, but I think it's more particularly like animated 3D, right? Probably bothers you the most.
I'm not really sure. I will say that the Jurassic Park film in 3D did not bother me at all for some reason.
Yeah, well, it's also a darker film. Maybe that had something to do with it. Like there's not like it's not
I don't know.
strobe flashing lights and stuff as there's so many animated films. There's so much visual stimulation. Like a movie like Into the Spider-Verse, had we gone to see that, or Across the Spider-Verse in 3D, I feel like that probably would have bothered you. That can be almost overstimulating. Like, yeah. Anyway, I think it was converted to 3D for the 25th anniversary. I want to say it was either the 25th or the 20th. I'm not sure which, but one of those two. I think they converted it to 3D, and it had like a brief re-release in theaters, and then obviously this being the 30th anniversary, they're putting it out again. I'm not sure why they did it now instead of back in June, but maybe they just needed to fill some space. They're like, hey, let's do Jurassic Park. I was like, okay, I'm cool with that. And there was probably maybe a dozen or so people there, maybe 20 at most. But there were some people there. This one husband and wife brought their two little kids. I was like, I feel like that's a little much for, but then, that's not up to me. They're their parents. But both of the parents had a Jurassic Park shirt on, and I was like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll
I
probably wait.
definitely
I'll wait a little bit longer before I introduce my kids to it, but yeah, I would like them to see it eventually.
And I forgot my memories of seeing Jurassic Park. My dad took my little brother and I. I don't remember my mom being there, but we saw it in '93, and I remember when the T-Rex broke out of the paddock. That was when I hid behind the seat.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely an intense and scary scene. Like especially if you're a kid and you're seeing kids on screen getting traumatized.
and, and what? How many years apart are we again?
Just two, I think.
Okay, so I was 2 years younger than you when I saw it, and my little brother was 2 years younger than me, so he was 4 years younger than you. Uh,
So he would have
so
been 6. That sound about right. You would have been 8.
uh, let me count that.
You,
Yeah, he would have been 6. So I can only imagine how scary the movie was for him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's just me personally. Like I wouldn't let, like even my oldest who's 7, I wouldn't let her see it yet. Like I wasn't. I mean, it didn't come out till I was 10 anyway. But um, in general, my parents didn't let us see PG-13 movies until we were 13. But they made an exception just because they knew I was so excited about Jurassic Park. They're like, okay, you can go see it. Well, we're gonna take a break for now, and when we come back, we'll finish up with more of Jurassic Park. See you in a few minutes, or in like 1 minute, nerds.
Nerds! I have an announcement for current and future subscribers. We have lowered our price. Now, for only 99 cents per month, you'll get access to one brand new bonus episode released on the first Friday of each month, our full back catalog of bonus episodes, video versions of select regular episodes, and more. So don't wait another minute. Click on the link in the episode description and sign up today. Now on to this week's episode.
So, Richard, one thing I wanted to ask before we closed out is what is your favorite Jurassic Park sequel? Now, we need to define what we mean by Jurassic Park sequel. Would you like to talk? I mean, obviously, we don't have very many options if we're just talking about the first 3 films. So, I'd like to expand that to all the Jurassic World films as well, just to give us more variety.
Yeah, I mean those are sequels. Like they're in the same world.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to call those sequels. I mean, particularly since they bring back like the original, well, 3 of the original characters in the final film. Which I don't think we haven't covered that one. I don't think was it Dominion?
I thought we did an
Did we
episode
cover
on
that? Maybe we did. I know we
Uh,
definitely covered Fallen Kingdom. I think we did Dominion too. I want to say
I think we did.
like when it first came out. I think I'll have to go back and look. Actually, we're getting close. We're creeping up on 100 episodes. We're not there yet. I think we'll get there before season 4 is over. And but yeah, so I got to go back and look. But yeah, I know we definitely covered Fallen Kingdom. And I think Laura joined us with that. My wife Laura joined us on that one because as she watched it with us, I think.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
remember.
it is kind of interesting that we covered some of the newer ones before, which I guess makes sense. Like they were coming out more recently, so but yeah, we did that before we covered the original. So it's about time, I guess, that we covered the original. But anyway, getting back to your question, which was my favorite? Hmm. Oh, I'm trying to think back to like which one I would have think back like which one did I enjoy the most when it first when I first saw it. If I was basing it on that, I think I'd have to say Jurassic World, like the first of the new trilogy, just because
Yeah.
it was the first one I saw in theaters out of all of them. Like I hadn't seen two or three in theaters. Still haven't seen two or three because they don't release those very often. Like I haven't not seen them re-release those yet. Um, so Jurassic World was the first one, and I think it very deliberately tried to evoke, much of the pathos of the original Jurassic Park. Like it followed similar plot lines, and dealt with similar ethical issues. It's not that like three didn't really deal with anything super important on it from an ethical standpoint, maybe a little bit, but two definitely did address, some of the
Yeah.
it definitely dealt with like, should we be doing this? Is this ethical? Shouldn't we just leave the dinosaurs alone to live where they're at? The dangers of bringing them to the US. But Jurassic World was nice. It was definitely a callback to the original film, followed some similar pacing. And to me, at least the first time I saw it, it recaptured kind of that balance of some of that balance of wonder and terror. Now, I will say, and it's hard to do that being the fourth film in the series. Like, there's only so much you can do to add more terror. So it didn't obviously accomplish as much of, and obviously Colin Trevorrow, young guy. I don't know if he's a first time director, but pretty close. So, so he's not a Spielberg, he doesn't have the experience and stuff. So it didn't capture the terror as much, but it did attempt that balance where you had the moments of wonder. And I will say there wasn't as much of that in Lost World.
Right.
It was a little more like serious all the time. There wasn't as much of the wonder that you had in the first film. And Jurassic Park 3, there was basically, aside from seeing a really cool Spinosaurus, well, I will say we did get to see the pterodons and
Yeah.
or pterodactyls, I forget which, but the flying dinosaurs, the pterodactyl, I think it was pterodactyls. We did get to see them for the first time, which that was pretty cool. Um, but it's still, there's something about, and I think reintroducing kids again as well, although they weren't as young as Lex and Tim. I don't think there might have been one of the kids that was younger, but I don't know. It recaptured some of that magic for me. And again, it being the first one I saw in theaters. So I think I might have to say that is my second favorite. And again, I love The Lost World. I enjoyed Jurassic Park 3 for what it was, certain aspects of it I enjoyed. But I will say the more recent, which I guess really it was kind of that way with both trilogies, both the original trilogy and the newer one. They they got worse with each film. Like
Yeah.
Lost World is not as good as Jurassic Park, and Jurassic Park 3 is not as good as Lost World. So they got progressively worse with each film. And then the new trilogy, it started off really strong, and then for me at least, it got worse with each film. To the third film was just it was bad. I enjoyed bringing the characters back, and there were some moments I enjoyed, and obviously just the spectacle of dinosaurs and being in the world is fun, and dealing with some of the implications of if the dinosaurs got loose and started breeding across the US, like what would happen. I did like some of that, but overall it was just not a great film, and neither was Fallen Kingdom. I think if I was to compare the trilogies, I would say the original trilogy is stronger overall than the new one.
Right.
Definitely. And it not just because it has the original at the beginning of it, but like all three films together, I think it's fair to say Lost World is definitely better than Fallen Kingdom. And I think you could argue that Jurassic Park 3, it's at least as good as Dominion. I don't know if I'd say it was better, but it's at least as good as Dominion. But Lost World is definitely better than Fallen Kingdom, by quite a bit,
Definitely.
I would say. So the first trilogy is the stronger of the two. But yeah, if I had to pick a second favorite, it would be probably Jurassic World, I think. How about you?
Yeah, I have to admit that I feel exactly the same way you do. In my opinion, there are only three great Jurassic Park films: the original, The Lost World, and Jurassic World, and then the others. Uh, I I'm not sure if it's nostalgia or not, but I almost feel like Jurassic Park 3 is somehow better than Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Uh, I don't know though. May I'm not sure. Maybe that might just be disappointment on my part because I expected or wanted to see something different in those two films, Dominion and Fallen Kingdom. I'm not sure, but yeah, my favorite sequel. It's really a mashup between Lost World and Jurassic World, but I think it's Jurassic World. There was a lot more hype on my part for the Lost World Jurassic Park because I was still a kid at the time.
Oh yeah.
But but I really love what I love the most about Jurassic Park is the idea of bringing the dinosaurs into a park.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that's where Jurassic Park really shines is keeping it at the park setting.
Hmm.
And only two films really did that. At least in The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, at least they were still on one of the islands and you got to see remnants of the fences and of some of the labs. But
Hmm. Yeah.
so you still had some of that, but there's just something magical about a park for dinosaurs.
Yeah, and I think didn't Jurassic World didn't they revisit some of the original spots like the old I think they did, didn't they, at some point during that
Yeah,
film? They they didn't they like start up a Jeep or something from,
they
from like
did.
one of the old Jeeps, I think,
They found it.
which is ridiculous. Like the battery would have been long dead, but you know, it's the
Oh, of
movie. It's the movie.
course.
It's the movies, but
They found it in the visitor center.
yeah, so I liked that. I liked that they ran into like it was what 20 or 30 years later, I guess. I don't know if it's supposed to be real time difference, but you know, 20 something at least years later. And I did like the progression as well. It's like they went back to it, but then now they're having to relearn the lessons again. They're making the same mistakes again, you know. With the what was that dinosaur called? The new one, the something raptor. I know it was like it was a crossbreed.
Indoraptor?
Indoraptor?
I think so.
That's
Are we talking about
like
Fallen
In Jurassic
Kingdom?
World. I don't think it was Jurassic World
Oh,
where they they created a new hybrid dinosaur, but I can't think of what it was called. But I'll have to look it up. But anyway, so for you, like you would rate Jurassic World your second favorite film as well.
yeah, yeah.
And I do think the enjoyment was enhanced a little bit by the fact that there was 14 years in between. We kept hearing rumors that they were going to make another one, and it just kept not happening. And then finally, we got one. I think that helped. Like there was definitely anticipation for it. But yeah, but I do think it is definitely my second favorite as well.
And it kind of reminds me of the Disney Star Wars trilogy, the new Jurassic World trilogy. I'm
Hmm.
not sure how both of the new trilogy started strong, but then got weaker as they progressed.
Indominus Rex. That's what it was.
That's,
Indominus Rex.
that's it.
Yeah, and then they have another new one in which I kind of retreading the same thing again almost in the second one. Um, it yeah, it just didn't work for me. I don't think in the second one, but yeah, the Indominus. It's kind of a dumb name, but yeah, I think that that animal is more effective in Jurassic World than the one in the second film.
Oh yeah,
And then Yeah.
I do like how Dominion tried to tie up a bunch of loose ends and bring it back to the original Jurassic Park, but uh, I didn't much care for the setting, I admit.
Yeah, and they in my opinion they totally wasted Campbell Scott like as the villain. Like the writing was just so bad. I mean, it may be that just his acting skills have diminished as well, but like I tend to think it's probably the writing and the directing was just not good. So he was not effective at all as a villain. Just it just did not work for me. You know, and I don't hate him as an actor. I've seen him in some things where he was excellent, but so yeah, it was disappointing, just very disappointing. You know, he does not pull off the. That's one of the things I loved about the John Hammond in the first two films is that because he's likable and engaging and charismatic and hopeful, and it almost makes him more dangerous, like his naivete,
Yeah.
to some extent willful naivete, but naivete nonetheless, like, or just this misguided hope perhaps, um almost makes him more dangerous, you know, than someone who's just straight up greedy like his nephew or whatever is in the Lost World. You know, the guy who's trying to steal InGen from him and like comes and takes all the dinosaurs. Like he's just straight up greedy, you know, and he's honestly not as interesting. Like John Hammond is more like the well-intentioned. I think someone has compared him to a dark Walt Disney,
Yeah.
you know, which they do reference the Pirates of the Caribbean in the in Jurassic Park. It's like, yeah, but John, it's like Disneyland had problems, you know, when they first released, when they first launched, and Malcolm's like, it's like, yeah, John, but if the Pirates of the Caribbean's malfunctions, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
Yeah.
Classic Malcolm lines. I love, especially in the first film. Like I don't know what it like, just like '90s Jeff Goldblum. You know, for one thing, he was like ripped and tanned all the time in the '90s. I don't know what that was, or maybe he just knew how to dress. But like, you know, he's in like Jurassic Park, and then he was in what Independence Day, like the first
Oh,
one.
yeah.
You know, and as he's gotten older, he's just kind of grown into. He's still fun, but like he's kind of, I don't know. He's lost some of his coolness factor, I guess. Maybe that's just a product of getting older, but he's still fun. Like he's definitely fun. He's embraced his quirkiness in his older age, I guess. But yeah, I love him in Jurassic Park in particular. He's really good in Lost World as well, but and his character grows. I guess his character changes. But yeah, I love his lines in Jurassic Park. It's, must go faster.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the original Jurassic Park, one of the park rangers, the one attending to the Triceratops,
Huh?
his last name was Harding. And in the Lost World, isn't Ian Malcolm's girlfriend a Harding?
Ah, yeah, I think you're right. What if that's her dad or
I
uncle or
wondered the
something?
same.
Hmm. Curious. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think that was Sarah Harding.
Yeah, that sounds right. Who knows? Well, so we've talked about the sequels. Well, I guess since we did, what's our second favorite? What's your least favorite?
Oh my gosh. Well, if I can go first, originally my least favorite was Jurassic Park 3, but I really feel like Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Oh my gosh.
You got to pick
They're
one of
not
those. You got
terrible.
to pick one of those two, though. Which one is worse?
I don't, that's hard. That's even harder than picking out my favorite. uh, which was the worst? I'm probably gonna say Dominion. Dominion was the worst. I mean, I appreciate what they tried doing, but I wish it were done a little differently, I guess, to wrap up all the loose threads from the first film and everything. I don't know. Um, in some ways, they brought it back to the park. It wasn't a park, it was a preserve of some kind, but I don't understand how they got all the dinosaurs there. And, well, they didn't get all the dinosaurs there. I don't know. There was a whole lot of different plots in that film that all eventually converged. Uh, that's my pick anyway. What's your thoughts?
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough. Like objectively, hmm. Yeah, I think objectively, Dominion probably is the worst film of the bunch. Like it is just not written as well, and there are definitely elements of it I enjoyed, but in terms of like which one I had the worst experience with, like, or maybe if I were to pick it by which one was I most disappointed in, it would have to be Jurassic Park 3. I
Yeah,
think I had high expectations and hopes, and I was still, relatively young at that point. I would have been like still a teenager when that came out, and so still fairly fresh. The my expectations and hopes, and it just did not live up to them. So I think I was more disappointed in that film than either Fallen Kingdom or Dominion. But yeah, by the time it got to Dominion, I wasn't expecting a lot. I was, there's a little bit of me that I was a little excited about them bringing back the original cast, but that at the end of the day was more of a stunt to get people
yeah,
get butts in the seats. I think I think they wasted it. Honestly, bringing Goldblum and I think they did I will say I did like one thing I would say I liked better about Dominion than Jurassic Park 3 if I were to compare those two. Fallen Kingdom's kind of somewhere in between. Like I think I would rate it number 4 if I had to rate the 6. So I'd have like Jurassic Park, Lost World, or no, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, Lost World. And I think Fallen Kingdom would probably be number 4. Jurassic Park 3, I think I would rank number 5, and then Dominion would be last. But one of the things I did enjoy about Dominion is that they did more with Ellie Sattler's character
right.
than they did in Jurassic Park 3. Like she was in there, but her role was not as important. And I was pretty disappointed. It kind of made sense from the character perspective, but they basically one thing I really didn't like about Jurassic Park 3 is they undid the growth that I feel like Dr. Grant went through in the first film with
Yeah,
and then he and Ellie don't get married and like he's not married, has no kids. Not that you have to have kids to develop and grow as a human, you don't, but like it was disappointing that they didn't get together, you know, in that film. It kind of made sense from a character perspective, but yeah. Um so yeah, of the sequels, that was the one I was the most disappointed by because my expectations were higher. But I think objectively, Dominion was not as good a film as 3. They're pretty close. Like 3 is not that great either. But yeah, I did like that Ellie Sattler got a much bigger role in Dominion.
yeah, me
I
too.
did like that, and her and Grant do kind of get back together somewhat. Um, which I was like, okay, that's fan service. I get it, you know, and I kind of enjoyed that. And I enjoyed seeing the trilogy back together. That was cool. So there were elements of it I liked, but But yeah, I guess I would rank that number 6 out of 6.
And in the defense of Dominion, I would probably rewatch Dominion before Jurassic Park 3, so there's that to consider.
Fair point. Yeah, if you're grading it on rewatchability, yeah, I might do. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe not now. Maybe not right now, just because I haven't seen Jurassic Park 3 in a long time. So if I were to pick one tonight, I would probably rewatch that first, just because it's been so long since I've watched it. But overall, in the long run, Dominion would probably be more rewatchable, oddly enough. Which I don't know if that makes it a better film or not. But maybe it's more that I have negative emotions attached to Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah.
I was more disappointed with it.
So let's talk about something a little different for a second. We might not have a lot to say about it, but just to check, have you seen Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous?
I've not.
It's good.
Is it good?
Yeah, it is good. Back in the day, they were going to make a Jurassic Park cartoon series, but Steven Spielberg said no to it. And I wish they had done that, but I have to admit that if they did, they probably wouldn't have allowed character deaths. Characters do get to be eaten in Camp Cretaceous, but only the adults. But it's a good show. I haven't seen the final season yet, or the last season released.
Is that on Netflix?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
That's a good reason for me to get Netflix again, just to catch up.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but yeah, I have not seen an episode at this point.
Well, if you want to check out some new Jurassic Park, Jurassic World material, it's not bad. Dr. Wu's in it, and there's a little bit of information in there that's not in the films.
Okay.
I don't know how much they thought about it when they made Dominion, though, but Camp Cretaceous, for the most part, I think it takes place between the original Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom. Like I said, I'm not sure how true to canon it is compared to what they eventually did in Dominion, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's getting late, so I think we should wrap this up. Yeah, guys, I guess let us know, like, if you want to send us a message or a DM or whatnot, let us know how you would rank the films. Where would you put? I think it's fair to say anyone who's seen all 6 films, I don't see how you could not rank the original first, unless maybe you were a little kid. Unless you were a little kid that saw Jurassic World before anything else, I could see where you might rank that higher if that was your first experience with the series total, and then you saw the other afterwards. But an older adult or anyone's like, I feel like that'd be pretty unanimous number 1. But yeah. I imagine, particularly numbers 3 through 6 is probably more up for grabs in terms of like who would rank what where. But anyway, let us know what you think. How would you rank the films? And let us know if you got a chance to go catch Jurassic Park and its various re-releases over the years. And so next week is comic book week.
Cool.
So we gotta figure out what we're gonna talk about. We've got a couple of possible episodes and topics in the works, so we just gotta narrow it down and pick it out. So, but yeah, that's coming up next Wednesday. So thanks for joining us this week and another trip down nostalgia lane. And until next time, nerds.
Sayonara.
Live long and prosper. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Irreverent Nerds podcast. If you would, consider following us on Instagram. We are there at irreverent_nerds. You can also hit us up on Facebook. Just look us up there at the Irreverent Nerds. That's our fan page. We have a YouTube channel as well. Once again, the Irreverent Nerds. Nice and simple, right? And if you go to www.irreverentnerds.com, that will send you to our Podcasters for Spotify, formerly Anchor.fm profile, where you can send us a voice message if you want to, support us financially, or listen to the podcast. It will also direct you to other places you can listen, like Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, you name it. So, like, comment, subscribe, follow, all those good things, wherever you find us, wherever you listen to us, we would greatly appreciate it. Until next time, nerds, live long and prosper. Avengers assemble! I'm Batman.